Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Good Guys Sports live from the Duke Basketball Museum. So, today we're going to be talking a little bit about Duke basketball, about this building, and Cameron Indoor as well. Some of the most historic buildings from one of the most historic basketball teams, college basketball teams in the country. So, I just wanted to start by giving a huge thanks to Duke University, Duke Athletics, and most importantly to the Duke medical system, who have been taking care of Jackson over the recent history, and they've been doing a great job of that. So just a big shout out and thank you to everyone at Duke, particularly those from the Duke Medical Center, and of course people at Duke basketball. Including Mr. Kevin, who we're joined by, and of course Jackson, who we're joined by as well. So just want to start out by asking Jackson about a special visit that he had with somebody very important to Duke basketball. And can you tell us a little bit about that experience, Jack?
Yeah, Coach K was a great person on and off the court. He was I was a little nervous at first, but he was a very nice and kind, very very nice person. He's won the Olympics from Barcelona all the way to the London Games, and he was a really special man who loves being around with his grandchildren and is great with people. He treats he has a great family and has won national championships and just one of the great coaches and persons you'll ever meet.
Yeah, I definitely second that. He's certainly a very unique person and a very unique figure in the history of sports, not just college sports, sports in America in general. And then Kevin, I wanted to ask you about this building in particular. So for those not aware, we're currently doing our episode from the Duke Basketball Museum, and as you can see from this lovely backdrop, that there's a lot of history surrounding Duke basketball, as I'm sure a lot of our viewers and listeners will be associated with, but maybe not all of them are familiar with this building in particular. So could you just give us a brief introduction to the Duke Basketball Museum and kind of the things that you might see in here?
Sure. We're the Duke Basketball Museum is in what we call the Schwartz Butters building,
Okay.
which is adjacent to Cameron Indoor Stadium. The Schwartz Butters building includes on the top floor the office where Jackson was earlier today, Mike Krzyzewski's office. The next floor down is Jon Scheyer's head coach's office and his staff. The next one down from that is women's basketball. Then the athletic director's offices, and then you get down to the level we're on right here, the main level, and it contains the Hall of Fame and the Men's Basketball Museum. We have here not only the championships won by the basketball team, but there's another area we could go to where we have 12 more team national championships and several recognition of several individual NCAA champions in their various sports. So it's quite an experience because you get to see so much and so many different sports. But without a doubt, the Men's Basketball Museum remains, I would say, the centerpiece here, where we have the 5 national championships. We have an area devoted to Mike Krzyzewski and his life and career. We have an area devoted to our former players who were named National Player of the Year and National Defensive Player of the Year. And we have the area right behind us here, which represents various ACC championships, visits to Final Fours. We've had 17 on the men's side, 13 of them during Mike Krzyzewski's career. But then Mike's career lasted 42 seasons as well. What a fixture he has been
Absolutely.
for Duke.
Yeah, Jackson, I mean, just looking around this building, there's so many great memories. We've got championship trophy, Final Four trophies. It's pretty unprecedented. I mean, not many universities can tout this kind of hardware, you know?
Yeah, it really isn't, Blake. It's just it's by far one of the best sports venues, museums out there that you can think of all the different players and sports and and basketballs and attractions and different different years and championships and titles and jerseys and players and different sports and even the banners. Like you said, they got it all, and that's what I think the sport of college basketball is really there for. I mean, you think about it, you're walking to a museum and you see history of Duke athletics. That's the place to be, and that's the place to be. And I think that it's all right here in one spot. And yeah, it's a very special place.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very historic building for a very historic team being Duke basketball, and of course a lot of the other sports as well, part of Duke University that are recognized here. So thanks again to Kevin and the building as well for having us. So I thought maybe we could just talk a little bit about Duke basketball, about Cameron Indoor, and kind of just talk about some of the interesting historical facts, some of the historical players that have come through the program and have played under Coach K, played in Cameron Indoor. So I just thought I would give a couple of fast facts about Cameron Indoor to start out. As I'm sure Kevin probably knows a lot of these facts, as he's a tour guide here for those who don't know. So I'll be doing my audition for a tour guide basically by trying to run through some facts to best of my ability. So Cameron Indoor was opened in 1940. The construction began the year prior, and the capacity of the arena is 9,314. And I think when it was first built, it was one of the biggest arenas in the country. And then now, conversely, given the fact that it's still a stadium, it's one of the smallest for one of the bigger college programs, which is part of the appeal that I'm sure we'll talk about in a second. So the name comes from the longtime athletic director and coach Eddie Cameron. It was named after him in 1972, and the outside of the arena is modeled to fit a lot of the buildings around the West Campus or the campus in general with the gray stone. If anybody who's been to Durham and been to the university would know what I'm referring to. So it's designed to kind of blend in. So certainly when I first walked by it, it certainly blends in well, and sometimes you don't even know that it's there, given its relative size compared to other basketball arenas and some of the architecture around it as well. And then there's been many renovations to Cameron over the years. I think there was one in the 80s that was cost around $2 million, I believed. And they've had a couple of facelifts over the years to kind of update it. But I think Kevin probably agree with this. The renovations are more external and keeping up with the times, but ultimately the goal is to still maintain the original charm and the advantage that Duke basketball has by playing in such an intimate arena where the fans are close. And so I think probably as many renovations they would do, they'd always try to keep the essence of Cameron kind of in the building. Is that fair, Kevin, you think?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We've had two major additions to the original building, both of them along exterior walls. And so the point being that any of the changes that we've made inside those original walls that were constructed back in 1939 have been essentially those to create a more comfortable environment and I'd say a more aesthetic environment. So essentially the integrity, exactly what you were saying, the integrity of this place has remained foremost in our minds. And we're extremely comfortable in an arena of this size. I'd say that it fits Duke University very well. We are not a large state university. We're a smaller private university with 7,000 undergraduates. And I want to follow up on one point that you made, Blake. I've had a number of people for whom I was giving a tour stop and say to me, I walked by this building 3 times looking for Cameron Indoor Stadium. Because in fact, what they were looking for was something extraordinarily big, imposing, and all. And as you say, the architecture here was designed to fit neatly in to the existing architecture that had been built earlier in the late 20s and the early 30s, and all.
Jackson, what was your first impression of Cameron Stadium, whether you were walking past it or seeing it on TV? What did you know about Cameron before you spent time in the area? And how does that compare to when you first were walking around the building or experienced it fully?
That I think that's my reaction to it, is that it is one of the most top-rated sporting venues probably in American history. Really is one of the most icon and most storied venue probably in the history of sports, if not in the country. So it's right there along with the many other professional and college sporting venues. And if you haven't been to a game or attended an event at Cameron Indoor, you got to put it on your bucket list. It's a must see. You got to go there, enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that fact, and that leads me on to a few of the other points that I wanted to make. And if you read about Cameron Indoor or Duke basketball online, there's a lot of a fear factor from away teams playing in Cameron, and a lot of people say that it's the toughest road game in college basketball because of the intense atmosphere, the Cameron crazy, that I'm sure a lot of people know, student sections that are extremely close to the floor. And with the smaller arenas as well, you're able to generate a huge amount of noise. And we know with college sports, college football, college basketball, they really place emphasis on the atmosphere, and that can really swing a game. And we know there's lots of huge games in the ACC over the years at Cameron, where anytime UNC is there, Syracuse, Wake Forest, NC State, some of the in-state games as well, it's a really tough place to go. And I'm sure if you go out there, any of these longtime coaches in the ACC, you'll find a quote about how much they, I won't say despise going to Cameron, but whenever they see it, it's probably the first game they see on their schedule in the ACC play. They say, all right, guys, we got to go to Cameron, and we know it's not going to be an easy game, no matter if you're, a prime national championship #1 undefeated team in Duke, or if you're even a lower rated team. So it's certainly got that fear factor amongst other coaches, particularly in the conference. And then I know, Jack, you mentioned that it's one of the top arenas, usually ranked in that kind of array amongst like other historic stadiums. And I pulled up a list of the top sporting venues in the 20th century, and it was a top 5 sporting venue in the country, pro or college. It was kind of ranked alongside the likes of Wrigley, Augusta National, where we just had not an arena, but a sporting venue, a place where you have sports, right? Lambeau is another one as well. So I think when people think of Cameron Indoor, they put it alongside some of these historic venues. Is that a fair kind of correlation to make there, Kevin? You think those stadiums?
Oh, definitely. Yes, definitely. As a matter of fact, a number of the people who come and see Cameron make those correlations themselves to other arenas that they've or playing areas that they've been to. And all, you're right. Football stadiums, Boston Gardens for basketball, and all. Yeah, it's amazing to me the number of people who will mention, and this picks up on something you were saying, Jackson, that this has been a bucket list item, and it really doesn't matter who you root for is what I've discovered, which is rather startling, and all. In other words, this facility has a cachet about it that people want to experience, whether or not they're Duke fans. And that's it's really satisfying to be able to give tours to people who are in essence, if you will, living their dreams, and getting to see this historic place and suddenly reacting in a way that says, "Oh yeah, now I see what this is about." When when you explain, as you were alluding to, Blake, that one long side of the court is will have the undergraduates very close to the court. Both end zones will have graduate students not very far from the court either. Three sides surrounded by people in their late teens and in their 20s with a lot more energy than I ever remember having, frankly. It just so adds so much to the place. One of the things I just want to quickly mention too, I've read comments from a variety of players from competing teams who speak about the respect they have for coming to play here, even though they know that the fan base is not going to be rooting for them. But I think again they're just so taken with the aura that surrounds this this 85-year-old stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hear a lot of in other sports as well. You hear about one or two stadiums that have that fear factor or that historical aspect that players entering the league want to play at one point in their career. So I think that definitely rings true. Jack, do you think Cameron Indoor, how do you think it compares to the likes of a Wrigley Field or a Lambeau Field in terms of Cameron Indoor is the place to play at in college basketball, right?
I think it's right there with them. I think that Cameron Indoor is probably I want to say they're second on the list. Wrigley Field is probably behind them, maybe the TD Garden and Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park are also in that category. So I feel like iconic historic stadiums, I feel like are always on the top of the list, along with as well as other special places. So I do feel like so I do feel like they're up there. I just think that in that same category where Cameron Indoor Stadium falls into, yeah, I agree. I think they're on the top of the list, right there with them.
Yeah, certainly. And I think in a sport or in sports in general where you see a lot of teams, a lot of schools are, always and rightfully so quick to build big arenas and upgrade everything. And you see it in professional sports as well, where it seems like some teams have a stadium and then move out of that stadium in 20 years. And so I do think there is something to be said for having that continuous longevity in one arena for one team. And I'm sure that helps with recruiting and that helps with just bringing attention to the school. And I'm sure, Kevin, you give tours of Cameron, and I can't think of many places, college basketball arenas, let alone arenas, stadiums in the country where people would want to have a tour. So I think in that aspect, it's a smaller stadium, so you can't sell as many tickets, but from a historical aspect, it just brings in so much attention and so many visitors that if Duke just built some new stadium 20 years ago, it wouldn't be the same thing, right?
I think, oh, that's exactly right. I mean, had we done that, we would have lost an incredible amount. It seems to me we would have lost obviously the tradition that is in this building. This starting play as you correctly mentioned in 1940, and all, and the teams, both Duke teams and visiting teams that have been here and played in this stadium and played on the court. It's incredible. So we are one of the things that I appreciate is is I mentioned the word before, the desire to maintain the integrity of this original building and all. And the challenge for all of the places that you mentioned, Jackson, the challenge is to keep that historical sense and yet modernize in a way that doesn't do any violence to the historic sense, but makes it a more pleasant, enjoyable venue to experience. And I think the people at Duke have managed to do that. And I know to make your point a different way, Blake, I was in the Minneapolis area when the decision was made that they needed to replace the Metrodome, which was 20 years old. And I
Right.
know that there's now talk about at least researching at a campus not too far from us, about 10 miles from here, to look and see if they need a new stadium because theirs is about at most 40 years old. So it's really been, I think, quite an endeavor for the people who to care for this place. To keep it in very good shape so that it is a perfect place to come to play a game and to watch a game at the highest level.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And Jack, obviously we're in the Duke Basketball Museum, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a couple of the historic players and some of the historic teams. Obviously, the historic Coach K we mentioned previously, but if you look around, there's jerseys, there's trophies. There's some huge players that have played here: Christian Laettner, Grant Hill, JJ Redick, of course, Jay Williams. Some of these great players from some of the earlier teams, and then even some of the teams from more recent years as well. Obviously, with five championships. Is there one championship, one Final Four, one player that sticks out when you're walking around this beautiful museum that catches your eye?
Well, a couple of names you are forgetting are Jay Billis, Seth Davis, are the few people that I also threw out there that are also on those championship teams. So I do feel like everywhere you look around this place, then the Players Trophy and the MVP awards and all the different years and the basketballs and the trophies and the different stuff they have to offer in this museum and all the stuff that's surrounded for all these years and for what they've accomplished in history as a team, really remarkable.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
Blake, I'd say with the challenge of the question you asked is every time you come up with a few names, then you think of the names you haven't mentioned.
Right. There's so many.
Because there are so many. That's right. People like Shane Battier come to my mind, and
Absolutely, yeah.
and Jay Williams,
Quality player.
and all. But even going back, and I am really going back far
Go
on
for
this
it.
one. 1952's National Player of the Year, Dick Groat, our first
Wow.
retired jersey.
One for the history heads out there.
Yes, indeed. A two-sport athlete who understandably cast his lot with professional baseball. And so he's got his jersey retired from the Pittsburgh Pirates up in Cooperstown, New York for his baseball exploits. And of course, he's the first jersey we have retired here at Duke for basketball.
That's great.
At all.
So you've given a lot of tours. Is there one section in particular that people always flock to, or the first thing that maybe catches your eye in it, or is it just maybe just the championship trophies would be an obvious answer? Maybe
I think that is an obvious answer, but you're absolutely right. Each championship has a separate kiosk. On one side is the trophy that comes from the NCAA, the one that we're used to seeing the players pass around at the end of the game. On the other side of the kiosk is a very aesthetically pleasing lead crystal basketball which I'm always inclined to say I don't want to see them passing around at the end of the game from hand to hand. Thankfully, it's mailed to us. But it also comes, it comes from the Coaches Association. And it also comes on a pedestal that lists the 6 games it took to bring that particular trophy home. With a little more information, the farther on you get into the tournament. So I always think it's a wonderful way to relive the journey that it took, going from round 1 to the championship round, and all. So I think that's one area that everybody stops and looks at quite a bit. The one other thing I'd mention now, though, if you turn around from that, you'll also see a picture of Krzyzewskiville. And the number of people who are amazed at the whole operation that comes from the tenting experience for undergraduates who are trying to position themselves for where they're going to be to get into the UNC game in particular is another one of those very, very distinctively Duke things, I'd say, particularly given the length of time that people are required to do the tenting.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything you hear from that experience is just something that's very unique. And obviously the big games are always as of huge interest. Of course, with Duke UNC, it's a rivalry that we've talked about on the show previously. So plenty of trophies, plenty of hardware to reflect some of those big victories in this building as well, of course. So Jackson, I thought maybe I'd just ask a couple of questions to you and Kevin, Duke related, Duke basketball related, etc. So I wanted to start with Kevin, and he's obviously got a lot of experience. So if you had to pick one thing that makes Cameron Indoor so special, very tough question just to pick one, but one attribute, one trait that you think makes Cameron Indoor, i.e. one of the most special venues in the country, certainly for college basketball.
Let me think of that in terms of from the viewpoint of someone coming to watch a game. One of the things that I always think is remarkable is how small this stadium really is. And what I mean by that is that even if you are sitting in a back row, you are never very distant from the playing surface. You always feel some degree of connectedness with what's happening on the court. You don't have to go searching for some big screen somewhere as you do in some of the larger venues to see what's going on. So that'd be one of the things that I would point out.
Absolutely. Jackson, is there one thing about Cameron that really sticks out to you that you always think just adds the extra edge?
For me, I have to say the Camden Crazies, because they're one of those fans that are really into the team, and they all get loud and they're fired up, and they're always bouncing up and down whenever a big play is about to happen on whenever the other team has the ball, and they try to go out, and the fans are just really into it, and they're just really passionate for what the sport is, and it's really they're just a great passionate people that love cheering on those Blue Devils, whenever they're trying to whatever the team's just trying to turn a turnover or a takeaway, or just trying to draw an offensive foul. Any kind of position kind of play, the Cameron Crazies will always be there and get into it. So I do think it's really, I think one of the special things about attending Cameron Indoor.
That's a great choice. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if I had to pick one word as well to kind of sum the whole experience up, I would say atmosphere as well would be a good way to summarize everything. So Kevin, I wanted to ask you as well, if you have a memory, either you were there in person or you watched on TV, the favorite game that you have seen at Cameron Indoor from Duke basketball.
Boy, that's another one of those questions, Blake. Hey,
I'm full of them.
you just start going through the Rolodex in your head of the many, many, many games. I'm looking off to the side here, and I'm looking at a portrait of the Shot, and of course, it was not played here, but it was played by what the team that became the 1992 repeat champions and all. And we happen to have downstairs the actual jersey that Christian Laettner was wearing the night that he hit that shot.
Wow, that's pretty special.
Yeah, it is. It is and all. But beyond that, there have been some incredible battles, as you know, with UNC. And I remember the 2015 game in particular, when we were behind, I think by 8 or 10 points with about a minute to go. And Tyus Jones decided we were not going to lose. And we tied the game at the end of regulation and won it in overtime. It was just incredible to be in the arena and to pick up on that atmosphere that you were talking about as the team made that comeback and then gutted out that win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, Tyus Jones may be one of the more underrated Duke basketball players from recent history as well. And made a lot of important shots in his tenure here, didn't he?
He certainly did. Yeah, he certainly did.
Jackson, I wanted to ask you a question. You've mentioned a couple of different players on this show from Duke basketball that you're a fan of. And looking around this building, there's no shortage of great players that have come to this program and played under Coach K. But I'm going to ask you a tough one. If you have to pick one Duke basketball player to make a free throw, who are you going to pick to step up to the line? One player, one free throw from Duke basketball.
Let's see. Grant Hill is my pick.
That's a
So
good. That's a good pick. What is it about Grant Hill that
I
makes
think
you
that
pick
he's a
him?
more, by far, one of the most athletic and most talented players on the team, and I think that he is by far just really a better and athletic, a great shooter, and he can really he can really he can really rebound and do it all. I think that he's really one of their best players that can just really get it done and make your team a lot better in a lot of different ways.
That's I think another great choice, and you've got to be able to. You're talking about the pressure of that free throw that you're talking about, Blake, and so you need somebody who maintains his calm, maintains his cool, maintains his focus, and Grant's a terrific representative of all those qualities. Nice choice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an excellent choice, and he's an excellent representative of this program over the years. That's for sure. Two more questions before we wrap up here. One for Kevin and one for Jack. I'm putting him on the hot seat, Duke basketball edition. I wanted to ask Kevin, where I mentioned a ranking earlier of sports stadiums in the US, and you might be a little biased, but where do you think Cameron ranks in terms of sports stadiums you have to visit in America? Would you rank it top 5, top 10, number 1? Where do you think it kind of fits in that pantheon compared to other historic venues that we have in America?
It's a very subjective question, and I know you're aware of that as you ask it, Blake. What I would say is it's clearly in the top 5. And where you position it in there again depends on the person who's responding to you. I have no trouble putting it number 1 myself, but that's
Me either.
but that's my own predilections.
And then Jackson, speaking of rankings, I wanted to ask you where the man that you met earlier today, Coach K, ranks in terms of not just college basketball coaches, not just basketball coaches, but coaches of all time. Where do you think he ranks?
Number one,
Number one, huh?
Yes.
by far.
So what do you think what do you think it is about Coach K that makes him the best coach of all time?
I think that he's just special, and he's a great leader on and off the court, and he's just a great person to be around and hang with and tell stories and have long conversations with, and just a really great guy, and just loves to hang around with people, and a great family, and has a dog, and he has a great place. He has a great house in the area, and just a great man who just really has won a bunch of championships from the Olympics and from and 5 titles here at Duke, and just a great player. Just a great player from the Naval Academy in his early years, and for the cadets, and he's just a really great true leader, coach by far that I've ever and I just think that he just really is one of the best coaches by far on that list. Was really
Yeah, for sure.
really great great to meet him today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up. We're just about out of time, but I know me and Jackson just want to again give a huge thanks to the building that we're in right now, the Duke Basketball Museum, for having us for this Good Guy Sports special. And wanted to thank Kevin as well. If you're in the area, please check out the Duke Basketball Museum, get a tour of Cameron, get a tour of this beautiful facility, or just walk around Duke University campus, especially this time of year. It's absolutely beautiful outside. So if you find yourself in Durham, please check it out. But again, thanks to the Duke Basketball Museum, thanks to the university in general, and obviously, like I mentioned at the top, the Duke University Medical Center as well for taking great care of Jackson here in the recent past year or two. So just want to thank everybody from Duke, and just a reminder, we'll be back on Thursday with a regular episode of Good Guy Sports. But Jackson and Kevin, just want to say thank you for joining us. Kevin?
We'll be expecting your application to become a tour guide any day now, Blake. So
Yes, it'll be here very soon. All right, thanks everyone. That will be Good Guy Sports signing off.